I don't even know why I'm doing this video right now. All I gotta say is, Jester Bell, I thank you for bringing me back to this, but at the same time, why? Well, why you do this? Why?
This should be played at high volume.
No need to look back, and I wouldn't if I could. Tears I can't hold back, no. I finally know that because of you, I witnessed prayers come true.
Welcome back, my uniters, my dividers, and my neutral parties everywhere. Welcome back, of course, to Nomadic Opinions. The show where we just dive into things unabashedly, whether it's from anger, frustration, or from a very calm place, none of which apply for these 3 episodes that I'm going to be doing over the next 6 months, because I am in a very dark place. So about X-Men 97.
To me, my X-Men.
Yeah, cool intro and everything out of the way. So, I could not get any rest to finish the series. One, because I started it with somebody, and I am not someone that will do something without finishing with the other person, where by the time this is released, I will have actually done something where I've finished it and will probably release a review of it, thanks to said person that's watching it with me. At the time of the scripting, though, I've only seen up to half of the first season, so this is gonna be very awkward for me in the future. But I digress. I'm mostly talking about X-Men 97, not because of how it was groundbreaking for how Marvel could do something that could be well-informed for mutant fans everywhere looking to dive into something that us 90s kids really did love back in the day. Not for anything of pure note of how it raised the stakes for how to do character development, how to pay homage to certain comic book elements, how to make a lot of things by paying homage to what has come before, but also introducing elements from what we have today. No. We're doing this video because no one would shut the fuck up with me about Rogue's weird love life in the series.
Why?
Yeah, I'm not kidding. This is the video right now, so get some popcorn, kick some feet up, because I'm the umpteenth person to have to talk about Rogue's weird love triangle that makes as much sense as a porcupine in a condom factory.
You rockin' loud, but you ain't saying nothing.
Okay, so let's break this down originally about who Rogue is, as well as the 2 love interests, shall we? Rogue, real name Anne Marie in certain comic books, it doesn't fucking matter. Rogue is a Southern belle from Louisiana. Some might say from Nolens, some might just say from parts in the bayou. It depends on what the writer's trying to say, because certain comics are very contradictory. She's been in the whole Marvel canon for a long time after she touched a robot that is no longer able to be in Marvel Comics because of some legal issues involving rights being in the whole mainstay of things. She started to have a whole different spiral of character development that would also soon go on its head after some things involving her and Ms. Marvel that will be very hilarious if they were to do certain things in the MCU. I'm just gonna say that right here, right now. I don't know what else to really say without going into many different spoilers, because if you guys know, you know. But in the 90s adaptation for things in the animated series, none of the big things that I could talk about really matter. Instead, it's just she was recruited by her adopted mother of Mystique, soon to be wife to Destiny, if you guys can believe that in certain modern comics. Thanks, Jester Bell. And she ends up touching Miss Marvel for a really long time, to where she ended up so drained and so tired, she got a piece of her inside of her. Wait, don't click anything else, no! And so from all of those other factors, she became a good guy from various other elements that were introduced later on throughout the run of Marvel's animated canon for various different iterations, but none more so than X-Men the 90s from, I think, 93 to 96. It's been a hot minute, and my editor will probably put the actual time code of the series runtime on screen right here. And so she's been like that until X-Men 97, where apparently she's no longer
double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon, hella ass.
And so we're now going to be focusing from all of that stuff to then talk about the two men in her life. I have to say it like that because it gets very confusing. So Eric Lancashire, often just known as Magnus, you guys know as the
Master of Magnet.
He is a Holocaust survivor. He is very, very old, and he is the quote-unquote friend of Charles Xavier. Even though we all fucking know different. Charles, we know you and Magnus were doing other things than just being friends. So we just have all of these random moments of Magnus going from, I'm a villain, I'm a terrorist, I'm a superhero, I'm Zorn in the comics, but no one knows that I'm Zorn, even though I'm probably one of the most powerful members of the X-Men in this run of the comic book adaptations. Then I'm a supervillain again. Then I'm just gonna help Charles build up some stuff on New Genosha to where we're gonna end up being just mutant supremacy all the time to go against all the humans because no one knows how to write mutants in Marvel anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
But if we go into just the 90s animated cartoons, he's just all the time mutant supremacy, or I'm quote-unquote best friends with Charles Xavier until we had a falling out. And then in 97, he ends up the head of the Charles Xavier School for Gifted Children, aka leader of the X-Men, and it's supposed to be a very dark time for everybody about Magnus having a change of heart, even though we've seen Eric Lancashire as a hero in a lot of different things in media, to where it should not be a surprise, because it's not like he's a bad guy, he's just a traumatized person that never really got help, and I kind of blame Charles for that, so thanks a lot, goddamn Professor X, you bald son of a bitch. Then we have the man, the myth, the legend. One of the only reasons that I read Marvel Comics for a long time before I set my collection on fire when I was just a teenager. Remy LeBeau, aka Gambit, baby.
Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
Child to the Thieves Guild. And Loki, one of the most powerful mutants in Marvel canon, who just actually limited himself thanks to a surgical procedure that he had Mr. Sinister, yes, that Mr. Sinister, implant into his own psyche to then just make him not an Omega level mutant, but one of the most powerful Alpha level mutants who is immune to telepathy and has a whole kinetic barrier to himself where, much like Magneto's magnetic force field around himself, because he can control the magnetic pulses from his natural, I don't know how to really say it in English. It's just his internal system creates a magnetic field that can reverse anything of a parasitic touch from mutants. Remy can do the same thing kinetically. He can actually avoid any terrible touch from a parasitic mutant. It's why Leech's stuff could technically not work on him. And, oh my god, he could actually make out with Rogue if he were to master his powers. In the animated series, though, we never get to that. It's never addressed, it's never brought up, and no one really just dives into what Gambit can do, because they're just like himbo with red eyes and a crop top making beignets. That's all we need. Also, he throws cards and uses a bow staff and kicks motherfuckers with his feet, because that's all we need from Gambit.
You son of a bitch!
So yeah, that's the whole crux of the whole thing. If you guys are waiting for me to do a review of the whole show, like I said at the beginning, wait till me in the future finishes it. Well, me in the past, which will be me in the future. Time is a weird loop, okay? Time is a weird loop. But now that we've covered the basis of Rogue and her two men, let's go into the controversy that fell on my lap. So if you guys have no idea how this originally fell on my doorstep, on my digital doorstep that was like a baby being left at the fire station, I was just looking at a YouTuber you guys have probably already saw me do a review of for Jester Bell. Pretty cool person, pretty chill. I would grab coffee with him and debate movies and shit like that. We would probably have a good intellectual talk, creative to creative. Lovely person. They wanted to do a whole bunch of posts that was on my feed for a long time about how weird it is that Rogue was written to just be in a love triangle with a man that was several decades older than her, because she was already in a different weird relationship with her adopted mom who just used her as a weapon, and then just happened to take her to a grown-ass man that was like a 40-plus year difference that made it feel so uncomfortable for everyone watching, apparently, and how it doesn't make sense that she would be attracted to him without really diving into the relationship that she's been developing with Remy for, until a certain episode happened that left a lot of people crying or very, very pissed off because it was never fixed. Allegedly. I need to finish the whole series before I say anything. Needless to say, though, from all of that stuff, many different outlets outside of that were just talking about, is it wrong that Magneto was like this? Did Eric really have a shot getting with Rogue, or was it grooming? Did Anne-Marie actually love Eric, or was she just doing this because it was her only way out? Was Gambit just put there for fodder to make Rogue's character development go downhill? Many different people were talking about this, and I'm just still sitting back like, guys, y'all are the same group of people that probably were championing a lot of different things that were just as fucked up in other media. And the only 3 people I could think of I could really have a conversation with, I probably have already done reviews for. Not any of y'all fucks. So then, it made me want to sit back and really look into things about why this is a problem, but it's not for the reasons you guys think. Like the age discrepancy. If we were to go into stuff that's weird about age discrepancy, I would expect so many people to bring up how Colossus and Shadowcat were in a relationship for a time, when she was technically a minor, and he was in his 30s. We're not gonna touch on that shit, because there are way other worse things. So let's actually address the biggest elephants in the room, shall we? For anyone that's wondering about that whole big spiel I did before about Eric and Remy, about their whole dichotomy from comics to animated, there's a reason I had to do that for the overall presentation for these two. Eric, aka Magnus, aka Magneto, Master of Magnets, has to be super powerful because he is one of the quintessential villains you think of for this type of production, or even just IP in general. Even though he's not really a bad guy, he's just someone that has been discriminated against on 2 different fronts. 3 if you count the fact that he and Charles are definitely in the LGBTQA plus spectrum together. But we're gonna address that shit a different day. And he's not really given a healthy platform to really process his trauma. He's just forced to always be angry. Something that a lot of us really know way too well. Believe you me, the stories I could say about myself. Because of that being a trauma victim, he's trying to impose his own agony and pain onto others. Something that many of us that are going through therapy know is a hard thing to really realize about yourself, because you don't realize the harm you're doing to others from what you're doing as you're expelling all of this negativity from what has been lashed onto you back onto other people. And that's something that many others would probably identify with Eric. Then with Gambit, everybody loves Gambit. Every single person wants to do something with a character like that, who's charismatic, who's charming, who's just doing all the stuff to where his best adaptation in fiction was the original Fox X-Men series that was on for us kiddos, and X-Men Evolution. Those are the only 2 great ones, along with X-Men Origins Wolverine. And no one likes that fucking movie. Nobody likes that goddamn movie. Not even Hugh Jackman. But that was the best Gambit we've ever had in live action, motherfuckers. We never saw him again. But even still, with a character like that on various different fronts that have inspired many different facets across the board, whether it's Twisted Fate in League of Legends, whether it's Alhambra from Hellsing Ultimate, technically, various different card-based characters owe their credence to Remy. But also in the same vein of how the Gentleman Thief really was epitomized for us 90s children, not because of Arsène Lupin or anything of that sort, well, except for Arsène Lupin the Serld. It was thanks to Remy being the prince to the Thieves Guild in Marvel. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have the basis that we have today to make characters like Joker from Persona 5, for instance. Certain elements of cool and charisma come from certain stuff like that, and it does showcase in how it goes into the elegance as well as the bravado that comes from that sort of thing. But that's not the only thing from just the character basis. The power structure is one of the biggest problems for why this weird love triangle should not exist, because like I brought up before, Eric has his own magnetic field around himself. His bioelectrical field that he produces around himself, thank you, brain, that allows it to where he can touch Rogue without her powers affecting him. That much is explained in the series. Here's what's never explained in any connotation of Marvel canon. Like I brought up before about how Gambit also has a kinetic field around himself that he can use to neutralize a parasitic power of any sorts, he could easily do that for Rogue. He had numerous months to train up to learn how to do this. They would have been very fine having that as a whole big factor, to where just that whole weird power dynamic between Magneto and Gambit does not exist. From that whole basis, we didn't need a whole weird love triangle. We needed to have growth for Remy that also would have made that one event actually stick a lot more, because then we would have seen him at probably the apex of where he could have developed before he does the surgery with Mr. Sinister when he meets himself in a different universe that is a god on an Omega level mutant spectrum. Long story. Comics are weird. That whole thing is a problem that will be, I'll just say problem A. Not really utilizing the strengths of your different characters to the utmost degree to make something more compelling like this. Even if you introduce it to where it's just fucking Rogue has a history with Eric, it's like, okay, now the weirdest thing I've ever seen in Marvel. Like, I get where people wanted to have the trauma basis for how Rogue could be so torn, but if you eliminate the touch problem between the two of Rogue and Remy, then where is the real issue here with them from the men chasing after Rogue aesthetic that becomes the whole big problem? But then I remembered one big thing when I was talking to literally the most important woman in my life. Rogue is never really written to be a person in a lot of modern media. And I kind of blame Bryan Singer for this, because Rogue's biggest character arc, I guess, isn't really just her trying to find acceptance or her trying to grow to master her powers in certain different outlets. It's more that she's written to just be touch-starved, rather than a person that's trying to understand themselves and to grow from their own shortcomings. Let me break it down to you guys like this, because I know you're probably very confused or thinking I'm really talking out of my ass. But let's honestly break this down bit by bit. Rogue as a character is very interesting. She has a power unlike anybody else. She can siphon off the energies, memories, the mutant abilities of literally anybody. And I mean anybody. Where she could be a one-woman army that could take out the entire Marvel universe. But she has to learn how to really do stuff with a power she can't control. She can't turn on or off. That's a lot of compelling stuff, because much like how it was explored in the original 90s cartoon or even X-Men Evolution, Rogue still sometimes gets flashbacks of the people that she has touched that really mess with her psyche. She doesn't know who she is anymore because of a lot of identity crises that kind of rise from her parasitic touch. And it's not because that she really wants to be this way. It's because she's stuck in a weird quasi place inside herself that she does not know what to really do with. It's the saddest thing, because you never really know how you're going to approach something like this. Are you going to make a character that's going to be very thought out and thought-provoking throughout the dialogue choices you want to do? Are you going to make them to where they're very self-destructive, to where they're probably going to end up on the darker path? These are things we could do, but then you kind of think about how Rogue was really written for the Bryan Singer films that also weirdly translate into X-Men 97. Anne Marie had a lot of stuff going on to where she was high priority target number one in the first movie, but she was just purely like all huddled up and scared, like someone that's just like, I need a hug, but I'm too afraid of hugs. I want to be able to do all this sort of stuff, but I just can't really bring myself to it. They fixed it a little bit in X2, but then they just kind of make it a little wishy-washy in certain parts to then make it completely her focus by X-Men The Last Stand, and then it's just kind of the basis from here on out. Cut that into how Rogue deals with her relationships in 97, and the Bryan Singer isms really enter the writer's room, where it's less about her being a feisty firecracker with identity crises in her head because she has so many different people's memories, their personalities, just everything resting in her psyche to a utmost degree that she does not know a single moment of quiet sometimes if her powers really become overwhelming for herself, is now just kind of delved into just a touch-based problem. A touch-based problem involving how she really wants to get with people, but then she'll lose people where it's just her only characterization because it's for the people that touched her heart, or they made her really feel like she had someone that could hold her. Okay, now, where was the character we all grew up and loved? Like, can we address that big elephant in the room so we can make it a bigger thing? Because I like the Rogue that's very complex and has a lot going on. I really do. It's great. Can I have that back, please? Like the rest of the show, it's fine. It's cheesy, it's corny, it's very 90s. I love it. Rogue, can we get that character back, please? Like that very interesting female character back, please? That'd be lovely. That'd be great. I'd love it. I'd really, really fucking love it. It'd be amazing. I want it. But no, we're not gonna get it. Just gonna a whole bunch of other shit.
Okay, so I was gonna let the original recording do the closing thoughts for this, but I think after letting everything simmer, and I got to see the spark notes about how the show ends, honestly, me in 2024 was a little bit more on the money about how unfulfilling it was for Rogue being written. Not for the same degree that Jester Bell wants to do her whole big post about in different videos and on the wall post, but more akin to what your girl Toons was trying to address with how they really emphasize the touch-starved angle. And although I will be on principle to state that although I personally do not think it was a love triangle, this was just me doing a response video to everything I kept hearing for months and months and months and months, I really just wanted to share my overall thoughts about this, where even to this day, I think 97 could have set the bar higher because storytelling has gotten to be more inventive, if you will. Like, in the comics, Rogue had learned to master her powers, and the showrunners kept saying they're going to implement things from different things in modern comics, like with Remy transferring his own kinetic energies into the fucking blades of Wolverine for a combo attack. But we never had it to where he could create a biometric field of his kinetic force to touch Rogue because they can actually have closure. Magnus, still being in love with Charles, couldn't really go that full center stage, but we had to be the whole Magneto is right all along to make that argument, and all these other elements. that would seem more like a modern day comic with how they've perpetuated the X-Men to be fascist in certain aspects or basically radicalist in other aspects because no one knows what to do with mutants anymore. And now we're supposed to just be okay with how the showrunners have done 97, knowing they were going to do stuff with how the modern angles are going with things. Because there are a lot of other issues with X-Men 97 to really go into, don't get me started. But I'm just addressing the bigger complaints that should be talked about. And Rogue having this whole thing of her and Magneto being in love. First of all, guys, not really underage. She was technically an adult that was barely legal, but it was just puppy love being sponsored by an irresponsible mom and a grown person who recognized that it wasn't going to work out because of the age difference. Let us address that point first and foremost. Second, Gambit is not really dead because Apocalypse exists, which means the Four Horsemen are going to fucking happen. That's a big thing to also address. And the last thing, but definitely not least, because I am reading off a bunch of notes that Julian sent me over several goddamn months to make this fucking video, is that here's a big thing for you guys. Just put your ears to the speaker or turn this all the way to 100. You hear me? You hear me? You hear me? You guys could just write your own stuff. Make your own internet producciones, where you make your own timeline of events if you're not happy with it, and just hopefully, have it to be where the fans prefer your canon. It then goes straight to the studios, and then maybe, just maybe, the people that run your favorite IP will take your shit seriously, and then you saved your shit. Isn't that genius? That's something more constructive than trying to just complain on the internet for no fucking reason. If you have a vision for something, don't just cry about it. Do something with it. You have a voice. You have opinions. Don't just try to dismantle something without showing that you know what you're talking about to lay down the foundation of change. Do something about it constructive. Anyone could be destructive. Anyone could be spiteful. Anyone could be mindless. I've been on YouTube long enough to know YouTubers are the architects of destruction if they so choose to. But it takes a real genius, a real fan, a real person of true revolutionary change to stand up, look at what they love the most, try to change it for the better, and then just beautifully move forward to showcase that they know what they're doing. And fans actually have gotten to a point where they do have jobs. There are people that are doing fan creations that are getting jobs in comic book industries, in TV show, in movies. It has been showcased. So while everyone's trying to do all these things about why they hate, detest, whatever, we could make change the right way. You're just choosing to do it the poor way. But hey, y'all are all grown adults. Y'all don't need me to tell you how fucking stupid this all is. You guys could listen to me and be like, you know what? He has a point. This insane man on the internet is right. We don't have to just be hiding behind a keyboard screen. We could do stuff for a difference. We can change how the industry works if we all stick to our guns, bury our feet deep into the dirt, and then lift it with our own two hands. Or you guys could just be like, I don't really understand what this guy is saying. I'm just gonna listen to more hate-spewing YouTubers that just want to spread more misinformation and not know what the fuck they're talking about. Because frankly, trying to change things is too much. You guys could do either one of those things. You guys could do a totally neutral thing of like, this is a nice video or whatever. I'll just leave a comment, and go about my day. It don't really fucking matter to me, man. This video was over a year old. I'm just now releasing this because I want to clear up my Rolodex. And frankly, it was fun getting back into looking at X-Men stuff. Because it was definitely long overdue. But hey, all this is just my opinion. You guys can respect it, you guys can hate it, you guys can do whatever. But at the end of the day, it's still my opinion. Peace.
Thank you.